Hey, how's it going? My name is Patrick. My friends call me Patty, hence why this YouTube channel is called Patty's Film. I'm a photographer based in Toronto, and today I'm going to be talking about the Nikon F100. Now, I don't think I would consider this as a full review because I feel like there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube that have that have reviews on this Nikon F100. But this video is going to be more so about the basic, not the basic, but the first impressions that I have on this camera based on the 3 photo shoots that I have already done on this camera. Now, a lot of people say that the F100 is basically the little brother of the Nikon F5, and as someone who actually owns a Nikon F5, which is right here, I would say the F100 is like a miniature version of the F5, but performance-wise, it's not on par with the F5, but it's close. Now, in terms of build quality, ergonomics, and button placements, obviously it's a lot smaller and lighter than the F5. It doesn't have, the vertical battery grip that this body has, which is optional, by the way. I think it's called the MB15. This camera feels great in my hands. In fact, it feels a lot like today's modern day DSLRs, except it shoots film. Now, if you're someone who's been shooting Nikon, you will instantly be familiar with this camera, especially as someone who used to shoot a Nikon D500 2 years ago. That was a DX format DSLR camera that I used before switching into film photography. You got this top LCD screen over here that'll tell you, like all the information you need, like for example, what aperture you're shooting on, what shutter speed you're shooting on, program mode, manual mode, how much frames you have shot so far on your film, how much battery life you have, basically the information that you'll need. Now over here to the left, you can control the flash, you can control the ISO if you want to push or pull your film, and then you also have the bracketing feature. However, on the same section is also where you have the option to do double exposure, singular shot, continuous silent, and a time shot. And then on the back over here, you have more buttons like the autofocus lock, autofocus on, stuff like that. These 2 buttons I have never used yet before, but yeah, you have more options in the back over here. And then over here, you have this arrows that acts as joysticks to, move around autofocus point. And then there's also this switch over here where you can switch to dynamic autofocus or just autofocus points. And then on the front of the camera, just beside the lens mount, there's like 3 different focus modes. So you got manual, singular, and continuous servo. And then on the top of the camera over here, you got the 3 different metering modes. So you got the spot metering, the center weighted metering, and the matrix metering. The whole time that I've been shooting with this camera is all done on matrix metering. Now, this camera takes 4 AA batteries. So the batteries that I have with me are the EBL rechargeable batteries that I got from Amazon. And if you're someone that's gonna be, going into film photography or seeing yourself shooting film for a long time, I recommend going for rechargeable batteries because that will save you a lot of monies in the long run. I'll turn it on, and then I'll just go in manual mode just so you guys can hear how fast this camera shoots on continuous. So I believe that's 5 frames per second. I could be wrong, but it sounds like 5 frames per second for me. And then you got the switch on the side of the camera over here to open the back, to load your film in. What I like about this film camera actually is that after you finish a roll of film, it will automatically rewind the film back for you. Like after you take your very last shot, it will rewind the film back for you, which is something the Nikon F5 doesn't have. For the Nikon F5 over here, like once I finish an entire roll of film, it doesn't automatically rewind back. I have to press 2 buttons to rewind the film back. However, the F100 does have a feature where, like, if you did not finish your entire roll of film yet, but you just want to rewind it, you do have the option. So there's this exposure compensation button over here and the bracketing button. You press those 2 and it will rewind the film back. You'll know because there's like a red logo on top of these buttons to let you know that these are the rewind buttons. In terms of performance, based on the 3 photo shoots that I've already done with this camera, in terms of low light, or like when you're shooting indoors and you have a low light, or just low light in general, the only problem that I have with this camera is that if you're shooting on autofocus, it tends to find focus on the subject that you want it to focus to, and even if I'm the right distance between me and the subject. Obviously, the alternative to this issue is to just go manual focus, just use the focus ring on the lens itself. And I know this is like a very common issue with many other SLRs and DSLRs when it comes to shooting in low light conditions, but to be honest, I never have this issue with my Nikon F5. Like my my F5 just manages to find the focus. I've shot in a lot of low light conditions, and you know, my F5 still manages to find the subject that I'm focusing on. Like, it still snaps on to focus. And that's just one thing to keep in mind when you're shooting with the F100, is that if you're going to be shooting autofocus in low light, it's going to struggle at some point finding focus on the subject that you want it to focus to. But like I said, you know, you can just manually focus using the focus ring on the lens itself. However, on the upside, if you have a decent lighting going on, this camera won't struggle in autofocus, obviously. When you have a decent amount of lighting, I'm telling you, this camera's autofocus is blazingly fast. I would say it's just as fast as my Nikon F5, and you have so much light to work with. It snaps onto the subject really quick. Now, pairing this body with modern day lens like the 24 to 70 or the 70-200, it works like a charm. Like, the photos will come out so sharp. And the funny thing is that I use an Epson V600 scanner. A lot of film photographers have that scanner. I bought it around like 300 Canadian dollars on Amazon, and I just use the regular the free Epson Scan 2 software that comes with the scanner. You know, I don't use Silverfast or what's the other program, Negative Lab Pro, just at Epson Scan 2. And you know, I'm surprised with how sharp the photos come out from this body. Like, you might even think that it's shot on digital, but it's not, because you'll know it's shot on film because of the way the colors are produced on film. So on the third photo shoot that I have on this camera was actually, you know, I finally got to shoot outside, you know, after waiting months for the warm weather to come. You know, spring is upon us. I finally got to shoot outside with my friend, and I shot this camera. I actually have a vlog on it if you guys want to check it out after this video. However, that vlog is about, you know, the Kodak FunSaver disposable film camera. But on that shoot, it was also the same shoot where I shot with the F100. And that was actually the same shoot where I got to shoot this camera outside for the first time. The first two times that I shot this camera was indoors. Especially on the first one, it was, you know, we got not a lot of lighting going through. Second shoot, we have some decent amount of lighting. But yeah, the third shoot, it was on that vlog. So you guys should go check it out, actually. Not right now, after this video. And let me tell you, like, when I was shooting this camera, obviously I was shooting on autofocus. It was fast. Like, it snapped onto the subject like really quick, and I think this camera is starting to grow on me. And speaking of that vlog, here are the photos that I took on the Nikon F100. What I like about this camera is that it's quiet, especially when like it advances to the next film. It's really quiet. Like, compared to the Nikon F5, this camera is way quieter. You know, for someone who's been shooting the Nikon F5 for a really long time, this camera will let people know around you that you took a photo because it's that loud. Like, the Nikon F5 has a feature where you can shoot on continuous silent. It's not silent, like, it's still loud. Now, who is this film camera for? I say this camera is perfect for everybody because I feel like Nikon designed this as a high-end professional use, but at the same time, the button layouts and everything is sort of user-friendly. You know, if you're someone who's getting into film photography and want a camera that is, you know, affordable, this camera is pretty affordable. It will run you around, I think, $200 to $300 on eBay. Correct me if I'm wrong, or like less than $400. So yeah, this camera is not complicated. It's pretty basic. It's got all the basic stuff you need. Or if you're, you know, a Nikon DSLR or even a mirrorless shooter and you want to get your foot into the film photography world, this camera is perfect for you. And, you know, like, speaking of Nikon digital shooter, you know, especially if you're someone who's been shooting on a Nikon DSLR, this camera will be a perfect transition into, you know, the film photography because it has an F mount, so it'll basically fit all the DSLR lenses that you already own. Now, this camera is lightweight, so it's perfect for, you know, travel. It's not bulky, and it's about 785 grams, so that is 1.7 pounds. So it's pretty lightweight compared to my Nikon F5 over here. This body alone is like almost 3 pounds. So this camera is a perfect lightweight camera. That can be perfect for travel as well. So for me, I bought the F100 as a secondary and a partner to my Nikon F5 because I know I will be getting into, you know, a fast-paced shooting situations. Sorry, tongue twister right there. Fast-paced shooting situations where I'm gonna require two bodies and each body will be paired with a particular lens. So like for example, my F5 will have the 70-200 and then this one will have the 24-70. I'd rather have two bodies than, you know, have one body and then having to switch to two different lenses is just not efficient. So this is a good, you know, backup camera for me, a good secondary camera for me. And also, like, before buying this camera, I was actually aiming for the Nikon F6, but you know, obviously that camera is like really expensive and I needed something that's like cheap and affordable but also just almost as good as my Nikon F5. So I bought this one. You know, this camera is really cheap. Like I said, it will be around 200 to 300 or like less than $400 if you were to buy it on eBay used. And you know, there's a lot of mint conditions out there. I think all of the Nikon F100s that I've seen on eBay are less than $400. So this camera is really affordable, and at the same time it works great. You know, the performance is great. Like I said, I was aiming for the F6, so this camera is just temporarily. I'm probably gonna sell this camera eventually, this sometime in the future, maybe not. But realistically though, I won't be getting the Nikon F6 anytime soon. So you'll be seeing a lot of photos taken on the F100 this year, especially this summer. I'm gonna be shooting this camera as much as possible. So stay tuned, subscribe, and hit the bell button, you know, to stay up to date with my latest uploads. Or you can follow my Instagram. I'm gonna put the link down in the video description below to, you know, check out more of my photos there. It's gonna be a mix between F5 and the F100 photos, but you'll know. I'll mention in the caption somewhere, like either through a hashtag if the photos were taken on the F100. And speaking of subscribing, I hope you found this video useful. Leave a like, drop a comment if you have any opinions about the F100, or if you have an F100 yourself and you want to share your own experiences with it, comment down below, or just comment how pretty my friends are. All right, see you later. Peace.